At 27, Arnold Schwarzenegger's son in the end confirms what all of us suspected, a revelation that has sent shockwaves through the media. Joseph Boehner is the name of the game toddler of certainly one of Hollywood's maximum iconic figures, and he has stepped into the highlight to deal with his complicated identity. After years of hypothesis and scrutiny, he opens up about his struggles growing up in his father's titanic shadow, the demanding situations of building his personal course, and the fact behind the phrases, "He is not my biological father." But what precisely does this imply for Joseph's adventure and his bond with Arnold? The complete tale will wonder you. The scandal that bowled over the world. In 2011, a revelation shattered the carefully curated photograph of Arnold Schwarzenegger as a committed own family man. The actor, former California governor and international icon, confessed that he had fathered a son with Mildred Bina, the circle of relatives' longtime housekeeper. For over a decade, this secret had been buried, hidden even from his then-spouse, Maria Shriver. The fact unraveled in the course of a wedding counseling consultation, while Maria directly faced Arnold about rumors she may want to now not ignore. His admission got here as a blow to their marriage and created a scandal that reverberated the world over. The public's response became on the spot and relentless. Tabloid headlines screamed betrayal. Images of Arnold's 4 children with Maria have been juxtaposed against young Joseph's, putting resemblance to his father. The similarities were plain. Joseph's jawline, physique, or even his smile reflected. The media latched onto this uncanny resemblance. They branded Joseph as the secret Schwarzenegger and became his non-public lifestyles into public fodder. Meanwhile, Maria Shriver, who had stood via Arnold all through his upward push to repute and political fulfillment, introduced the end of their 25-year marriage. And their separation became finalized in 2021, but it turned into overshadowed with the aid of the emotional weight of Arnold's revelation. For Joseph, the media frenzy marked a defining moment in his younger lifestyles. At simply 13 years old, he was thrust right into an international of scrutiny and speculation. One day, he changed into an regular 8th grader. The subsequent, his face became plastered across newspapers and TV displays. Reporters dug into his background. First up, they highlighted the stark valuation among his modest upbringing in Bakersfield and the opulent life of Arnold's other kids in Los Angeles. But Joseph remained quiet. His initial reaction changed into measured and personal. He navigated the chaos with adulthood that belied his age. Mildred Bina turned into a Guatemalan immigrant. She performed a pivotal function in supporting Joseph's cope with the sudden shift in their lives. She moved their family to a quieter vicinity, away from the media's relentless gaze, providing a semblance of normalcy. Despite the scandal, Arnold stepped in and took duty for Joseph, each emotionally and financially. He supported Joseph through excessive school and college and ensured that his newfound courting together with his son changed into meaning built on a foundation of guiding presence. The scandal, but, left Arnold grappling with public backlash and private guilt. In interviews following the revelation, he admitted his failure and took complete responsibility for the pain he had caused. Yet, amid the turmoil, one question lingered. How might Joseph reconcile his identity as Arnold Schwarzenegger's son, whilst growing up some distance eliminated from the Hollywood lifestyle of his 1/2 siblings? Over the years, Joseph's resilience became a defining trait. While the world speculated about his relationship with Arnold, he focused on locating his very own course. His quiet power and refusal to stay on the controversy stood in stark assessment to the media's dramatic narrative. He displayed a determination to carve out his very own identification, break free the shadow of his father's reputation. Fast forward to nowadays. Joseph's adventure to self-discovery has been considered one of perseverance, humility, and independence. He has constructed a life that reflects his values, in preference to the legacy of his father's call. The scandal that, when defined his childhood, is now only a footnote in a story of personal boom and triumph. While his bond with Arnold grew more potent through the years, Joseph's early response to the revelation foreshadowed the great guy he would come to be. Grounded, targeted, and ready to confront the demanding situations of being the son of an icon. But even within the early days of the scandal, there had been recommendations that Joseph could not let the load of Arnold's name define him. His quiet resilience paved the manner for a destiny in which he should rewrite his narrative. That future was shaped by fame, however, also by means of the values instilled in him in the course of his youth. As Joseph would later display, the once early training might set the degree for his extraordinary journey of self-discovery and independence. Joseph's humble beginnings. Arnold Schwarzenegger's other kids have been raised in luxurious, taking part in the trappings of repute, non-public colleges, and distinctive social circles. Joseph Baina's upbringing changed into a world apart. Meanwhile, Joseph comes from the Dust Bowl circle of local Hollywood's high fashion. He spent his early life in Bakersfield, California, dwelling in a modest home a long way eliminated from the glamour of Los Angeles. His adolescence became rich in love and level-headed in values that might shape the person he could later end up. Joseph's mom, Mildred Baina, turned into a Guatemalan immigrant and longtime housekeeper for the Schwarzenegger-owned family. She instilled in her son the cultural traditions and ideas of her homeland. Family, humility, and hard paintings had been cornerstones of Joseph's upbringing. Mildred labored tirelessly to make certain her son had a stable foundation. Through the years, she emphasized the significance of integrity and perseverance over cloth wealth. In their small domestic, Joseph grew up with a feel of groundedness. While Arnold's other children with Maria Shriver attended elite private faculties and made public appearances alongside their father, Joseph's life turned into defined by easy pleasures. He attended Frontier High School, a public organization in Bakersfield, where he excelled both academically and athletically. He changed into surrounded through friends and teachers who knew him for who he become, and his early life became in large part protected against the repute and scrutiny that got here, along with his father's call, at the least, till the world discovered the fact. This stark contrast in upbringing highlights very distinctive worlds. Arnold's different children, Catherine and Patrick, traveled in circles filled with celebrities and dignitaries. Their lives had been chronicled in glossy magazines, and their milestones were celebrated on purple carpets. In comparison, Joseph's reports were some distance humbler. He found out early at the value of tough paintings. He watched his mother juggle lengthy hours as a housekeeper to provide for him. The instructions she taught him, self-reliance, gratitude, and the significance of family, became fundamental to his individual. Joseph's Guatemalan historical past additionally performed a massive role in shaping his identification. Mildred ensured her son remained related to their cultural roots. Together, they celebrated conventional vacations, savored Guatemalan delicacies, and embraced the wealthy customs of her hometown. The countless heroes of dishes like pepillon, a hearty stew, and tamales graced their dinner desk and created a feel of connection to their heritage that transcended their modest way. These traditions weren't just about food, they had been about preserving a cultural identity that might later turn out to be a source of pride for Joseph. Yet Joseph turned into now not totally untouched by the affect of his father's larger-than-life presence. Though their relationship turned into, to start with, remote, Arnold's achievement and discipline in bodybuilding and appearing cast a protracted shadow. As Joseph grew older, he started out to apprehend the gravity of his father's reputation and the expectancies that got here with it. Despite those pressures, he remained rooted in the concepts his mother had taught him. Despite those pressures, he remained rooted in the concepts his mother had taught him. He chose to look Arnold's achievements as notion as opposed to a burden, a selection that could guide him as he forged his personal course, discovering his father. For Joseph Bainer, the invention of his father's identification became a moment that for all time altered his international. At simply 11 years old, Joseph's lifestyle seemed like another. It was described via school days and the quiet love of his mother. Serviçado. But someday, in 2008, the whole thing modified. He turned into known as out of sophistication, without rationalization, and become met by way of his mom. She shared the life-changing fact. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the globally famed actor, bodybuilder, and former governor of California, became his father. The revelation turned into stunning, however it began, to answer questions that Joseph hadn't yet regarded to invite. Initially, Joseph's reaction changed into calm, almost understated. "Cool," he stated, whilst his grandmother confirmed the information later that day. For a boy his age, the gravity of the sort of revelation may not have fully sunk in, yet as the information unfolded and his likeness to Arnold became a speaking factor inside the media, Joseph began to grasp the consequences of his father's identification. End of Chapter 3. His youth, once non-polished and unassuming, was unexpectedly inside the highlight, and the world now knew him as Arnold Schwarzenegger's son. The transition wasn't easy. As the media frenzy swirled, Joseph's dating with Arnold turned into, still in its infancy, for maximum of his younger lifestyles, Arnold were parent, unaware of Joseph's paternity. Once the fact became found out, however, Arnold made efforts to bridge the distance. He stepped in as a father, furnished financial aid for Joseph's schooling, and fostered a private connection that had previously been absent. For Joseph, accepting Arnold as his father wasn't in a single-day process. The two got here from hugely exceptional worlds, and Joseph changed into nonetheless navigating the emotional impact of the revelation. Over time, but the bond among father and son began to develop. Joseph's hobby in fitness and bodybuilding served as a sudden bridge, a shared passion that allowed them to attach on not unusual floor. Through exercises at Gold's Gym and candid conversations, Arnold imparted recommendation and a feel of encouragement. Even as their relationship deepened, Joseph was careful to stay grounded inside the values his mom had instilled in him. While he, reputable and fashionable his father's legacy, he resisted the concept of being defined by it. Associative psychoanalysis. Instead, Joseph focused on balancing the burden of his new identity with the life he had recognized before. This journey to popularity wasn't pretty much forging a courting with Arnold. It became additionally about coming across who he turned into beyond the Schwarzenegger name. Ultimately, mastering Arnold became his father marked the beginning of a transformative chapter in Joseph's lifestyles. It turned into a journey of virgin and self-discovery, one which required resilience and adulthood a long way past his years. As Joseph navigated the complexities of his newfound identity, he began to embrace the duality of his history. He drew power from each, his humble beginnings and the legacy of his father. This reputation might grow to be a cornerstone of his direction to independence and success, carving his very own path. For Joseph, being called Arnold Schwarzenegger's son is each a privilege and assignment. While many would possibly anticipate his father's repute might open each door, Joseph has deliberately chosen a special technique. He turned into determined to be successful on his personal deserves and has forged a route in real estate, acting, and bodybuilding. Without leaning on his father's name, in fact, Joseph doesn't use the Schwarzenegger surname in any respect, a decision emblematic of his desire to define himself independently.